Okay, everybody, good morning. Good morning. We're on, again, 4 different platforms here. We're on 4 different platforms, so I hope everyone is able to. So we're here on Facebook and YouTube and Twitter, and we're also here on torchzoom.com. So welcome to all of our friends on all the different platforms. We're so happy, Zehava and I, that we're able to learn together and to hopefully grow and connect together. So this is the first of the traits of the tools that the Mishnah talks about, the Mishnah lists after those that are limited. You remember we spoke about 6 or 7 ways that are limited. Limited laughter, which was last week. We spoke about limited sleep, meaning things that if you don't have the right proportion, can really be taken out of, take us out of the game of life. And we can lose our priorities and we can lose our focus. So today we're going to talk about controlling anger, and it's called Erech Apayim. It's one of the traits of the Almighty, right? The Almighty is perfect in all His traits, and the Almighty when we recite the 13 attributes of mercy, one of them is Erech Apayim, where God waits. God doesn't rush to anger. He takes His time, and He's patient, right? And in our terms, it can be even easier to understand with accepting frustration. Okay, it's okay. Things aren't going to always go our way. So there's a lot to talk about. I'm looking forward to this, and excited to be here with Zehava to talk about this. Okay, so. The first thing, we've mentioned this many times before in this class, is accepting differences. I don't think there's a better time to talk about this topic than right after election week, right? Or election month, election season, right? Where you have people who, very sadly, I got to tell you, I've been very sad to see how people have been rushing to judgment about things, and even I made a post last week right after my family and I, Zehava and I, and our son who just turned 18, we all went to vote, and I was very excited. I was like, I think this is a great, and I posted about it, and the wrath that people came yelling and screaming. First is being judgmental about who voted for, which I didn't disclose who I voted for. So people are making assumptions.
I mean, it's a problem that you can't even disclose it without people losing it. But I'm saying, why either side, whoever you voted for, that the fact that in this you don't have the ability to say who you voted for without getting attacked is a problem.
Yeah, it's crazy. It's crazy that we're living in a world.
We have to avoid politics.
No, we're not talking about politics. We're talking about the idea that people don't have the tools to tolerate. Right? Avram Avinu, our patriarch Abraham, was the ideal liberal. Right? He tolerated everybody, no matter how you came from, right? If you were poor, he fed you. If you were, you think of Sodom and Gomorrah, right? God informs Abraham that He's going to destroy this wicked city. What does Abraham do? He prays for them, right? That's the ideal, right? Now, let's not I don't want to get into the politics discussion, but why is there no accepting of differences? And by the way, I may not be very different than the people that made those nasty comments on my Facebook, right? But why aren't people willing to accept if it was different? Why can't someone have a different perspective? Why can't someone see something from a different way? So,
yeah, right? I think when we talk about anger, controlling our anger, it's not just controlling going into a fit of rage. It's also just a tolerance, a patience, not freaking out, not having a meltdown when things just don't go the way that you wanted them to go. We all have our ideas and expectations of how our day's going to go, how our life's going to go. And when it doesn't go the way that we had in mind or we planned, then we just get frustrated. So, like last night, you have like when you think of a tantrum, you think of like a little kid. So we have our precious 2-year-old, 3-year-old. She's very good natured, easy natured. She's not, generally tantrumer, thank God. So no terrible twos for her. But she was overtired last night. She wanted juice, and that cup, no, not that cup, and first water, also juice with water, but first put in the water, then the juice, and then no, I don't want apple juice. I wanted orange juice, and and then okay, and no, I don't want it. And that, like 10 minutes of, so you figure out what she wants, and then she's happy. And we sit there like laughing, and we're like, all right, she's having a little, little tantrum, a little meltdown. But like, okay, she's overtired. I think adults think that we're immune to these temper tantrums. I think sometimes adults have these adult-sized temper tantrums, and that we think that it's not going the way we thought or whatever it is, and then we totally just have our own adult-sized meltdowns, right? So you could be in the store and you're sitting there online waiting for for checkout, and the cashier is just going so slow, and you're like, oh, come on, I got to get out of here. I have things to do. It's a waste of my time. And then you're just sitting there and you're waiting and waiting. And then the lady behind you is on her phone and she's talking so loud, and you're just like, shh, and then the guy by the checkout is like, taking his time and on his phone and can't find his credit card. And then the next lady, she's going through 50 coupons, and you're like, people, move it, and you're getting so frustrated, and you're like, your heart starts racing and your blood, and you like get all tense, and we like get all, because it's not going the way we wanted. And then the cashier's like, I'm going on a break, or I was whatever's going on, and we just get so upset because it's not going the way we wanted. And then you like pull out, and you're late, and you just and the light turns red just as you're, then you're like, God, why me? Like, calm down. Like, the universe is not out to get you. It's not so terrible. Relax, right? I think all of us just need to learn how to just, things don't go exactly how you wanted. That's life. C'est la vie, man. And we have to just learn to sometimes just, not everything's going to go the way you wanted. Not with, little small things. And a lot of us, we're so spoiled also today, where everyone just thinks that everything's coming to them when they want, instant gratification, instant, you go to Starbucks and you order your triple pump non-fat skim latte with a side of pumpkin ginger, whatever, and extra foam and venti, whatever. You have your whole thing, and it didn't come out exactly the way you wanted, and you're like, excuse me, my order, right? Like, right? I think we need to learn how to handle frustrations, little things, little inconveniences, little things that don't go exactly our way, and just learn how to handle them a little better.
Yeah, I had a meeting a couple of weeks ago with someone, and the person was sharing their opinion on a specific matter, and I could not have had a more different opinion than that person, like completely, like 180 degrees different. But before I said my opinion, I said, I just want you to know that, and I listened. He went on to his whole soliloquy. He went on to his whole rant and about how he, he's very adamant about his opinion on this, on whatever issue this was. And then he says, and then I said to him, I just want you to know, I respect your opinion. I don't agree with it. I don't agree with it one bit, but I respect your opinion. I understand that you have your ideas, you have your things. I don't agree with it, which is fine, right? And I think we need much more of that kind of discourse in the world in general, but particularly today in our generation. We need to learn to appreciate an opinion that's not like ours, right? Again, just appreciate that someone else has a different life, someone else has a different lifestyle, someone else has a different, it's so healthy for us to get used to the idea that there are people that have different thoughts than we do, that people think a different way. But sometimes we need, you need to put things into perspective. So there was a story about a basketball player, one of those big 7.5 foot guys, And one of these little basketball players, it's a true story actually, jumped up to the basket and hit him in the eye. Right? So he got so mad that he took his fist and punched it into the post, right, of the basketball, right, to the post that holds up the whole backboard and everything. Now the next morning, his eye was healed, but his hand took him out for the rest of the season. Now sometimes the way we react to things that don't is also a very, very terrible thing. Very terrible. And we have to know that in education, and I didn't want to get yet to education, but we're already there. So in education, I think one of the most important elements of parenthood is giving our children an experience that they want to replicate, an experience that gives over the values that we cherish. There was once a story of a father who came to the Chazon Ish, one of the great early Torah leaders of the state of Israel. Right at the beginning of the state of Israel, he was in Israel, and a father approached the Chazon Ish, and he said that, what do I do with my son? My son comes to shul with me, and he keeps talking. Right? He talks in shul, and I want to teach him that you don't talk in shul. So Chazon Ish asked him, so what did you do about it? So he says, I yelled at him. I got very angry that he was talking in shul, and I yelled at him. So the Chazon Ish said, oh, you taught him two great things. You taught him, number one, that it's okay to talk in shul, and number two, that it's okay to get angry. All right? Because our children follow the way we act. And when we act in a certain way and react in a certain way, our children learn from that, that it's okay to react. And our children learn more from what they see of how we act than what they hear about us talking and preaching about how we should act. And there's a story told about Rav Moshe Feinstein, whose son passed away this week, Rabbi David Feinstein. But an incredible story that's told about Rav Moshe Feinstein is that he was once a student who was waiting in the waiting room, and he hears inside the room one of the other students is sitting with Rabbi Feinstein, and he's yelling at that student, and he's really, really upset. So after that student left, Rabbi Feinstein admits this other student, and the student says, you're so calm. How's it possible? You were just yelling at that student. You were so angry. How is it that you're so calm? See, he says, no. I wasn't angry. All right. He says we're never allowed to. Angry shouldn't be in our vocabulary. We shouldn't have such a thing called anger. He says, but this student needed to hear a voice of anger, so I made believe I was angry. And many times with education, sometimes we need to educate our children. Our children need to know that fire is dangerous, and you don't, certain thing, you don't run into the street. So we have to be careful not to give our children the mistaken thought that anger is okay. Rather, we can give them a firm, calm response and teach them that this is dangerous. We can be very firm about it, but there's no reason that we should institute anger into the way we talk to our children.
Right. A lot of people, when the kids do something wrong, they just yell at them. And it's not helpful. It's not going to teach your child a lesson. You're just letting off your steam, and you're blowing off your frustration, but you're not teaching them a lesson. So if you can, obviously it's much easier said than done, but to take a moment and to collect your thoughts, right? And to think, like, what am I doing? My kid just did something wrong, right? So I want to teach them, I want to help them out. But if you're going to yell at them, and then it's not going to help. The word erech, when we say erech apayim, it literally means lengthening of the nose, lengthening of the, right? Nice Jewish nose. You have a nice long nose, right? And we're slow to anger, right? You take a deep breath, and you slowly let the, right? Everyone says count to 10, or right, take deep breaths, or right, and literally when if I say to you, show me a happy face, right? Show me a scared face, right? right? If you show me a scared face, and everyone an angry face, and everyone's like, right? You like everyone's nose scrunches up when you do an angry face. That's an angry face, right? I don't know why it is, but I guess that's what it is. So lengthening your nose is like you're saying, be like, take a minute, take a beat, take a breath. Don't respond right away. Everyone says that either in marriage or anything when you're with kids. You get upset, someone did something to wrong to you, just take a breath. Stop, breathe. Take a few breaths and just ear out for a second, and then decide what's the best way to approach the situation, right? And like I was saying with education, when we if we show our kids anger, that's what they're going to learn, right? And also, if we show them that every little thing that doesn't go our way is so frustrating, and just like, how's the day? Oh, I was supposed to do this, and right, get frustrated by every little thing that goes on in our lives, then we're not giving our kids the tools to handle the things that come to them in life, right? There's so much going on that, like, I feel like today people are just angrier, more frustrated. Everyone has everyone's on edge, and everyone expects things to go a certain way, instead of just accepting that their frustrations, challenges, these are all part of life. This is all normal. This is all regular, right? And if we don't know how to handle them, then we're not equipping ourselves or our children how to just live life like a functional, adult. And these things will come up, little things, you squeeze your toothpaste and it flies out, or this or that, every little thing, you can't find your keys, like, oh, I can't, right? If you have like this little meltdown every single second, things don't go your way, then obviously little things over the whole day, you feel like by the end of the day, you feel like the world is out to get you, and everything's so terrible and everything's so horrible. So we have to put things in perspective. There are big frustrations, there are little frustrations, and we have to learn how to handle them. Some are internal frustrations, right? They're things that within ourselves that are either real or imagined in our mind that we, can or can't do, and that's frustrating. And then there are things that are external frustrations, and those are the things that we just have less control over, and they're going to happen, and we have to learn how to just roll with the punches. Yeah.
Yeah. So one of the areas of frustration that people experience is when they take a step in life, and it doesn't go as successful as they had anticipated, right? We try to grow in a certain area of life, and we fall short of our own expectations. And one of the things that our sages tell us is that no matter how small our step is, we have to appreciate it. Because one step, one adjustment, if you think of, it sets you on a whole new trajectory in life. And we have to appreciate it. We can't, we look at someone else and we're like, oh, look at them, look how that worked out for them, and look at this. And we try to compare it to ourselves, but we're not them. And we have to remember that we're not them and not compare ourselves to them. So we need to learn to appreciate every step forward. Every small step that we take should be appreciated by us, right? And not something that we should overlook. Small accomplishments, one small step, another small step. That's how you grow. And in a couple of weeks, we're going to talk about Jacob. And Jacob had a dream, and he had a ladder, and that dream going from the earth all the way to heaven. And our sages discuss why the metaphor of a ladder in his dream, because what Jacob was telling us, what the Torah is teaching us, is that the step of growth goes with one rung at a time. We don't jump. In Judaism, we don't jump, and we should recognize that we take a small step at a time. We make sure it's solid footing, and then we can take another step. Make sure it's solid footing, and you take another step. So anger is also, in the words of our sages, is considered idolatry, right? It's considered idol worship, right? Because we're taking orders from another boss, right? Who's the other boss? It could be me. Sometimes the anger that a person exhibits can be from their own from their own self, like, you don't respect me, that's why you're taking your time. As I was giving the example of, you're at the cash register and nothing's going your way, but why would a person get angry? Because, one second, you don't value my time, because you don't know who I am, you don't know, right? And we get caught up with ourselves, not realizing how, it's okay, relax, you're not the only human being on earth, right? You're not the only, and it's great for a person to feel good about themselves, but not to idolize themselves to the point where they can't tolerate when something doesn't go their way.
A big word like today, everyone has triggers. Like, I think that's like a big, right? Like, that's a trigger for me. If you say that, it's a trigger, or this action, or that word, or this is a trigger, right? And everyone has, right? And if you say that, then like, they get like frustrated and upset and all like in a tizzy, right? And we have to like,
eliminate.
Okay, you have to recognize what are the things that, if you want to call it triggers, let's go with that, right? So what are your triggers? What are the things that get you upset? And you have to learn yourself and recognize what are those things and how to avoid them or handle them better when they come up. And there's also like, there's times I was saying like it's idolatry, this whole anger is a form of idolatry. There's also like certain times that the Yetzer Hara, our evil inclination, right? Because when someone's angry, they don't function, right? When someone's angry, when they're upset, everything around them, it's very hard to work properly, to talk normally, to have like just everything around you just falls apart. It's very hard to continue your day if you're angry or upset. So there are certain times, let's say like Erev Shabbos, before Shabbos, like Friday afternoon, the Satan, right? The knows that that's a time where there's a lot going on, and right, and he doesn't want there to be peace in the house. He doesn't want there to be like nice, calm, happy Friday afternoon. So a lot of times you find that like there's a lot of extra frustrations on Friday afternoon, or sometimes like, God forbid, I've heard that a husband and wife sometimes maybe get upset at each other on a Friday afternoon, right? Because sometimes, right, they'll put in these extra little, like challenges, exactly, that come up, and if we don't handle it properly, right, so it could throw off the whole mood of the entire home, the whole house, and everyone's yelling and everyone's frustrated. And of course it's busy, but we have to just say like, hey, like, recognize this is not what's important, right? Let's focus on what's important, and let's not get sidetracked by all these like little triggers or stuff that are coming up.
So in the big picture of character traits, we talk about this many times in our Muster Mondays, in our Project Self class on Sunday morning. It all comes from a foundation of emunah, and when we understand that everything comes from Hashem, then we're able to deal with things in a whole different way. So when that person is frustrating you at the supermarket, right, because they're not moving fast enough, you have to realize that Hashem put them there to frustrate you and to give you that opportunity for growth, right? So the reason why the Talmud says that one who's angry is compared to an idolater is because they're not recognizing that there's a God, creator of heaven and earth, who really brings that challenge before us. You're getting frustrated because you're not recognizing that this is a very simple test that Hashem, not always an easy test, but it's a test that Hashem is placing right before you. And all you need to do is, like Zehava said, erech apayim, take that deep breath. It's okay. I have a friend of mine who's a CEO of a very big company, and he told me that he learned something new recently, that he only drafts email, he doesn't send email, right? He says sometimes he gets mad, he gets upset at something, he'll draft the email, he'll write it out, and he won't send it. That's it, he let it out, right? And we have to find ways that are healthy. I remember my little brother used to come home, he had a ton of energy, and my parents bought him a boxing sack, so that he could just let out his frustrations. And he'd come home from school, he's a teenager, and he'd be coming with all of these pent up energy, and he just needed to let it all out. So they got him this. Now, for us, my parents got us instruments, so we'd play the drums and all these other instruments. So, but he learned, to just, you have to have a healthy way to let out whatever frustration you have. That's not going to damage your character. It's not going to damage your relationships, and it's a very dangerous thing. If a person isn't able to control that anger, it can have a very serious effect on relationships.
I think also a lot of it is like putting things just in perspective. I was saying this before, but just when there are going to be frustrations in life. That is how life is. Challenges, right? An easy life is not, is not worth it. You know what I'm saying? You want the challenges. You want the things that make you stronger. If I could embarrass Shauna for a second, where is she? She's over there. I saw she was. Oh no, yeah. She said she posted something yesterday on Facebook that I thought was nice and said, "Thank you." There you are. I don't remember exactly, but I'm thankful for the challenges that I have, because that's where, right? Shauna, what was it?
I'm thankful for the struggles that I've gone through, because otherwise I wouldn't have found my strength.
Exactly. There. Okay. So that's it. Thank you. So, that's like the whole, my mother bought me this, her version of the Serenity prayer that I have by my coffee and wine. It says, Lord, give me coffee to accomplish the things I can and wine to accept the things I can't. Right. That's the right. So we have to know when we have challenges, when we have frustrations, when we have things that come up. Frustrations are good. They're an indicator of where we are and what we're supposed to be doing, what we're capable of doing, right? But we have to not just give up constantly, right? So we have to see, there are little challenges in life. Let's put it in perspective. You wanted to, I was on an airplane. Remember those? And we were flying somewhere, and we're over the Atlantic Ocean, flying to Israel, and someone's on her phone, and she's like, "Oh, my Wi-Fi is so slow. It's so annoying. This is so ridiculous. I cannot believe that they have such slow Wi-Fi." And I'm like, "Lady, you're flying in this massive thing of I don't know what, flying over the ocean, miles and miles away from anything, and you're complaining that your Wi-Fi is slow. Really, and we do it all the time. We get so frustrated by little things. Of course, there are real challenges, right? There are real challenges that our people have to deal with every single day, right? You have the person who, dieting and exercising her whole life and really struggling with her weight. That is very frustrating. And you have this skinny little toothpick who's oh my God, does this stress me? Shut up, right? Stop getting we have to put everything in perspective, what our frustrations are, what are the struggles that we're dealing with, and not just people, say oh, I, just give up. Everyone just gives up, and that result of our frustration of giving up or getting angry or depressed or it's obviously not healthy. And Aryeh was saying this before, that when we have little projects and we don't appreciate the little steps and the little things, so we get minor accomplishments, that's when we lose control. That's when we just give up and we say, it's just not working. Nothing's working out for me. Why isn't it, right? And instead of, we focus so much on the negative. We focus on all the struggles that we have, right? And we say, this is not working. And we don't look at, when we accomplish something, we have to stop and appreciate that accomplishment. We have to realize things are good, right? There's so much great, and we are accomplishing so much. So stop focusing on that and stop giving up on our things. We all have I think we all have our own goals and ideas and things that we want to do in our life. And how many of those do we give up on because it's just too hard? Oh, I want to, and it's important to make goals that are realistic, right? So I'm not going to say today that I'm going to do an Ironman, because it's just not in my desire. That's not in my will. That's not in my ability, right? But I could say I need to start walking or exercising a couple times a week, right? That is realistic. So you have to set the goals that are realistic and not get frustrated by the things that you can or can't or shouldn't do because they're just not, they're just not even doable. And then we get so frustrated and we have all these things that we wanted to do, and my life is just not going the way I wanted. I had all these things I wanted to do, and it's just not happening, and my life is so terrible, and we get all depressed and all down on ourselves. We lose our confidence, and then it's just very hard for us. Once we get into that cycle, it's just very hard to take on anything new because I'm scared. I know I'm going to fail. I'm a failure, right? So it's not doing any. We're our own worst enemy with these kind of things, right? No one's telling us you can't do it except yourself. So we have to realize, take on things that we're able to do, feel good about it, and know that we're a lot more capable than we give ourselves credit for. So we have to stop getting so frustrated by every little thing and accept life's challenges, and it's a journey, and this is how it is, and go. And next, there's going to be ups and downs, but not to dwell on those things, not to dwell on the challenges, not to dwell when everything's not going the way that you thought it would go.
When we realize that Hashem designs the struggles for us, then we also know that we're able to accomplish, right? Because God does not give us a challenge we cannot overcome. So if Hashem is testing us, and we have tests at every turn, every stage, every moment of life, we're being tested by our co-workers, we're being tested by our spouse and children, by our families, we're being tested by our friends and neighbors. We may not realize it. We may think like everything is just kumbaya, but there's constantly the test of us being the best version of ourselves that we can be. It says about anger that if one was smart, right, and they get angry, right, they lose their wisdom. And it's I think we can all identify with that sometimes you see people who are just so bright and so intelligent, but when they get angry, they say the silliest things, or they act in the silliest of ways. And that's a big problem, is because people don't realize that anger it clouds your thought, it clouds your reaction, and we're not able to do things the right way if our actions or responses are clouded by anger. There's a story about Rav Predan that the Talmud in Eruvin tells us, that he taught a student something. Imagine teaching a student an idea 10 times, 20 times, 30 times. You're reviewing it, you're like, okay, this guy's just, so thick-skulled, can't understand anything, right? He reviewed it with the student 400 times. And then he realized after 400 times that the student was distracted about something, so he stopped at 400. And other people who saw this, witnessed this, they asked him, he stopped at 400. He said, would you have continued? He said, I would have done it another 400 times. Right? The idea that we need to understand that every human being is unique. Every human being is special. And just because I can understand it the first or second time doesn't mean that someone else can understand it the first and second time. And we have to appreciate the uniqueness of every individual, right? And that helps us eliminate anger. It's okay. They're not the same as me, right? They don't have the same fortune that I have. They don't have the same privilege that I have. Let's acknowledge and accept that and appreciate the differences and the abilities that we have.
I agree. No.
It says the Ramchal says that the Ramban from Nachmanides, he says, remove all anger and resentment from your heart. All anger, haser kas milibcha, remove it completely, right? What comes as a result of that? You'll have a good heart, right? When you're able to remove the anger, you'll be able to see things with a whole new level of compassion for others, because you're able to now see, one second, we're different, we're unique, everyone has their own needs. Maybe this person needs help with me to help them with their bags and carrying out their groceries into their car, right? It means what can get us frustrated can just be because we're looking at it from the wrong perspective. Maybe instead of being upset, let's be merciful, let's be compassionate, let's be kind, let's be generous. Okay, so let's try to flip on our anger, on our impulse for anger, God forbid, and use it in a positive way.
You know what you're saying? Like, I'm thinking, like you're saying that everyone's there. God put that person there for you. I always think about that. It's a very weird thing because we're in a world with millions of people, right?
Billions,
right? And also we say the world was created for me, b'shvili nivra ha'olam, right? And my world, and God put you in your world, right? And how each person, how like simultaneously we're all in the same world together, but also we're each in our own world with our own, like, how does that work? And somehow it's just so cool. Like, I don't know, it's so amazing how God put all of us, each of us have our own world, our own life, our own challenges and virtues and character traits and everything around us. And at the same time, it was like layered, right? If there's a traffic jam, you just think like you happen to be stuck in the wrong place at the wrong time. You are meant to be there, right? So everyone who's there, and then that affects the next person, everything around us, the person you're married to, right? His flaws, not I'm saying not
that
you.
came out of nowhere.
Saying no. Saying his challenges are there for you to help you work on your own things and help him work, right? Your children, this one has, this issue or that issue, right? That is also there, not like randomly, okay, you're your world and your kid has this world, and like let them deal with their things and you deal with, no, your child has an issue with whatever it is. Let's go with anger because we're talking about anger. So your kid is having these temper tantrums. That was there. That put there in your world for a reason, right? So, and everyone around you, that guy in the grocery store, the person that was all, somehow it sounds impossible, but that's godly, right? Obviously, that there's all these things going on simultaneously in everyone's world, but that's all your world. And if you remember that, and you always have that in mind, that like whatever's going on is there for a reason. Whatever happened is there for a reason. It's for you, it's for now, it's for you to deal with, right? Or not deal with and let it go and ignore it, right? But that is that is the game of life. That's how it works. And like, it's very cool when you think about it, right? Because we get so, again, I keep thinking like we all do it. We get upset about like such dumb things. And why? Like we're ruining it for ourselves. We really are. Everything's like, there's just so much good, and we're just always like, why me? Why me? It's my life, right? Stop, right? Like there's just a lot of good, and we all have to, we're not gonna bring good around us and surround ourselves with like good people and positive, because we're just being so negative and like, it's so bad. I can't do this. I give up. This, I give up. All these, I giving up. And it's like, no pain, no gain, right? It says, Sheva yipol tzadik v'kam. 7 times a righteous person will fall and he'll get up, right? If we fall and we give up, then we're like, kids, right? When they learn to walk, they fall and they get up and they walk again, and they fall again and they get up and they, right? And they keep trying and they're not discouraged, right? Because they're still bright-eyed and the world is still, nice, good, happy place, right? But if we keep falling and obviously falling metaphorically, right? We're not like, but even let's say like falling, you see someone who gets an injury and they're like, and they give up, right? You have to do physical therapy, you have to work, you have to retrain yourself, you have to do whatever you need to do to get back to where you need to be, or push yourselves further, right? We give up so easily, and it's just so, we have to pick yourself up, and push yourself and go on. And if we constantly are giving up, like I was saying before, we end up with this low self-confidence and like feeling like we can't do anything, and then we end up just like not taking on anything, not doing anything that's going to make us go out of our comfort zone because we're scared, we think we're going to fail, we just don't, we don't bother, right? They're like, I know I should be doing this, or I probably should try to take on, let's say, whatever it is. Let's say you want to take on, let's say, because we've been talking a lot about Shabbos lately. So let's say, I know I want to take this on, but like, I can't do it. It's too much. I give up, right? Why are you giving up? Stop, right? If you never try anything, if you never challenge yourself, if you never do anything, so we're always living our life swimming in the shallow waters. We're living a life of mediocrity. We're not experiencing life fullest to its fullest, right? We're not experiencing life in a way that we should be. So we need to really just pick ourselves up. Life is meant to be a challenge. It's supposed to be hard. It's not meant to be easy. So I don't know.
There's a saying that quitters never win and winners never quit. Right? And we have to adopt that frame of mind, is that winners don't quit. Right? You don't quit. Right? Losing your temper means you're a quitter. You're quitting on the challenge. And you're just blowing it all off, right? It's like, that's what it means. When someone gets angry, what they're in essence saying is that they're quitting. There are many interesting things you can see around of adopting certain terms or getting a motto, right? So there's several mottos that the Talmud tells us. For example, it says that a person should always say Gam Zu L'Tova. Even this is also for the good. Even when it's challenging, a person should always see this is for the good. I don't understand why or how, but this is for the good, and accept it as a challenge to help your life become better. It also says a person should say Kol De'avid Rachmana L'Tavad. Everything that the Almighty does is for the good, right? I don't understand always how or why, right? But I have to understand there's this big picture. A person should adopt the term saying, I'll overcome, or I've got this. We have to give ourselves this little pep talk. I can do this. I don't give up, and a person has to find what it is that inspires them to say those things. Now, Zehava mentioned the Talmud that says that a person should always say that the world was created for me. And it doesn't say that the world was actually created for you, right? But you should say that, right? Feel as if the world was created for you. And the reason we need to feel that way is because we need to get into the frame of mind of understanding that this world, my grandfather once talked about this. He said the miracle of our world is that we are, each of us in our own little world, and we can intercommunicate between all of these worlds, right? We have many billions of humans on planet Earth, right? And the fact that each one of them has their own universe that can intercommunicate with the other worlds. That's an amazing thing. That's a miraculous world we're living in, a miraculous existence. But a person should always say the world was created for me. Does not mean that I'm selfish. It does not mean that I'm arrogant. It means that I've got this. There's nothing that I can't overcome, including this little frustration, this little challenge. I can overcome it and I can get past it.
Also, like on that note, whatever challenges that we do have were put in our world for us, right? So we have to remember that is there for us, and God doesn't give us any challenges that we can't handle. So if he gave you that challenge, if he's presenting you with that opportunity, right? So then realize that he believes in you. He thinks you could do it. He's there rooting for you, cheering you on and saying, you got this, you could do it. And we're the ones saying, nah, like, I don't think I could do it. And we're the ones who give up on ourselves. But really, everyone around us and God are saying, you got this, you could do this, right? When you like say to a kid, they're trying to do something new and you're just like, come on, you could do this, you could do this. And like, if you're watching them, they're like, no. And you're like, come on, you know you could do this, right? You could, right? It's a little scary, but do it. Let's say swimming. And then and if they're scared to try to swim, then they're gonna never be able to, right? So they have to do it. They have to try, and they have to right? And they learn and they get better and better. And then, and then they feel good and that they know that they did it. If we would do like all these things that come up, and instead of giving up, and we would do them, and we'd feel so good about ourselves, right? Like we'd feel so accomplished and so strong and so it's a good feeling that
Right. When one quits because of frustration, they lose credibility and they lose self-confidence, right? Because you stop believing in yourself, you stop believing in your capability. And we have to always be ready to face the challenge. We're going to have challenges. It's like, who doesn't have challenges? Yeah, they're not here anymore. Okay? They have no challenges. But as long as we're on this side of the grass, we've got challenges. And that's a good thing. That means we're alive. It means, it's like I like to say that the EKG, when they put the heart monitor on you, right? And it goes up and down and up and down and up and down and up and down, right? You wonder, like, why can't it just be straight? But because that's when you're dead. When you have ups and downs, you're alive. That means you're living, okay? Every human being who's alive on this side of the grass, okay, they have ups and downs. We all have ups and downs. We have to recognize and accept them and love them. Love those ups and downs. Love those challenges that come your way, and appreciate them.
It's like one of my kids got a big puzzle from my mother. It's like 1,000 pieces, right? And she gave it to 2 kids, and one kid was like, opened it, dumped all the pieces, and was like, ugh, like, no, this is stupid, right? This is dumb. This is stupid, right? Because that child at that point wasn't ready for the challenge. They weren't interested in doing it, and the other child did it, and he sat for hours, and he made this beautiful puzzle, and he glued it and framed it, right? Because he felt so good that he sat there and he, worked hard and he did it. Because a puzzle, if you got a jigsaw puzzle and it had 4 pieces and it was nice and easy, I don't think you'd feel so good and accomplished and like, great, oh, look what I did. I feel so great. But if you did a puzzle with 1,000 pieces or 5,000, right? It's a challenge, and then you feel good about it, right? So too in life, right? So in life, right? If we just like had an easy life, and you're born into like this, wealthy family, and you're beautiful, and you have friends, and you this, and everything's perfect. So okay, very nice, but like, you have nothing. You've accomplished nothing in life, If you work hard and you do things and you get things on your own, and you don't let little things frustrate you, and you just keep going and you work hard, that's when you feel good. That's an accomplished life.
The best way of dealing with frustration is to accept it as a challenge, okay, and love it. It's a challenge. Whatever frustration you have, if it's with a spouse, if it's with a child, if it's with a friend, with a neighbor, with a stranger, with politics, whatever, accept it as a challenge, right? And love it. Love that challenge and embrace it, right? What is anger? Anger is an emotion when we lose control. That's really what anger is. Anger is an emotion that kicks in when we lose control. And we need to not lose control of life. We cannot lose control of things that happen around us, right? It doesn't go our way, that's fine. It doesn't have to always go our way, right? Someone does something that's harmful to us, accept it as a challenge to accept that someone sees it from a different perspective, right? Notwithstanding the pain that it causes us.
I think also you're talking about how like this with today, not political. I'm just saying like with Corona and this and that, right? So everyone, it's easy to get frustrated at life right now. It is, because socially and job and this and that and everything's it is more challenging now. Everything is. So to sit here and say feel sorry for ourselves, and of course it's challenging. It is hard, right? But we have to just say like, this is it. Take it a day at a time, and let's just not like, don't give up. Don't feel like life is getting the best of you. Don't feel like you can't handle it. Don't feel, and we get, if we're not happy and we're not relaxed, right? When someone's happy and pleasant, it's much harder for them to get frustrated at life, right? If someone is, calm and chilled and happy, then anger is and frustration is less
common.
Right. And I think that like just taking it a day at a time, and also like a lot of us when we know we have to do something, a tactic a lot of us use, so like tomorrow, right? Like everyone jokes like, I'll start my diet tomorrow, I'll do this tomorrow, I'll do it, right? So or You say like 5 more minutes, 10 more minutes. I'm gonna, sit on social media for 10 more minutes and then I'm gonna do work. Or I'm gonna just one more cigarette or just one more, right? We're always like pushing it off. And I think we have to do it like the other way. Say like, use that same tactic against our Yetzer Hara, against our, our own negative like voices in our head, and say like, tomorrow, okay, just do today, right? Like, like we say, well, I'll do the diet tomorrow because you're thinking like to diet for the rest of my life or whatever, and like, right? It's too overwhelming. You don't want to think about it. I'm the worst person to talk about this because I have zero self-control. But let's say like if you say not just tomorrow, so tomorrow I'll eat whatever, but today I'll eat better. Use it, like flip it, and then you get through the day and you're like, that wasn't so bad, or like I'll work for 10 more minutes, or I'll do work for another, hour, and then I'll just, take a break. And then once you start working and you get into it, then you feel like, I got this, I could do this. So I think we have to flip our reverse psychology sort of kind of thing and like make it work.
Life is difficult, and the path to greatness is paved with frustration, right? We're not going to glide into heaven on rollerblades, right? It's going to come through a lot of hard work and a lot of toil.
Banged up.
And that's life. Is we have many different experiences that challenge us to make that great person out of us, hopefully. Eliana, you had a question.
Actually, it's more an observance. Zahara, you had said before that when you become angry, it's because you're losing control. You feel like you're losing control. So I think what I'm hearing from you all is that you turn that loss of control into taking back your control.
Correct. That's exactly it.
Yeah.
Take it, embrace it, take it as a challenge, smile. Hashem, you're testing me once again, right? And I'm in. I'm not running away from it and gonna get angry, but rather just the opposite. There's a story told about a guy in Israel. I'll tell you 2 stories about Israel. There's a story told about a guy.
No one in Israel is angry.
Yeah, right. People over there they're on steroids, right? But there's a guy who goes into the health center. In Israel, it's more of like a socialized medicine, but it's a very relatively small country, so you can manage it. But he comes in and he's yelling and screaming in the middle of the atrium that no one's taking care of him. No one, and he collapses, has a heart attack, and dies right there. Right? So it's a terrible story. But you know what? Sometimes anger can do that to a person. It can really damage a person and hurt them. All of his other existing conditions didn't matter because the anger overwhelmed them all, and it took him, right? Is it interesting? I tell people when they go to Israel that Israel's a great place to visit, but to live in Israel you need to be made out of thick skin, and I explain why. Not because the Israelis are so difficult, they are, but let me explain to you why. Okay, Susan, you live out in Cyprus. Aliza, you're in the Galleria area, right? You have all in Meyerland. I see people from Meyerland, from Sugarland, from all different parts of Kingwood, right? Fondren Southwest, all different areas of our community. And those of you online, and could be anywhere in the world. I don't know. You can write in the comment box where you're from, but everyone has a different home. Hopefully they have a safe environment. They have safe police patrolling their neighborhoods. But did anybody here ever wake up and imagine that, 30 miles out, there is a missile or a rocket aimed at your doorstep? No. But that's the reality in Israel every single day of your life. The reality in Israel is that there are Arab nations surrounding us, and hopefully it's getting less and less with these peace accords. But there are nations that vow to the destruction of the state of Israel every single day. They're committed to it, right? You think people are not going to be crazy? Of course they're going to be on edge, right? Not that they're crazy, God forbid. They have that chutzpah, but they also have that they're on edge always. And it makes a lot of sense when we put it into perspective. So again, take a step back. When you have that moment of frustration or a lack of clarity of how can you act like this, or why are you doing, don't get angry. Take a step back and try to understand their circumstances, understand their situation. So frustration is enjoyable if you love a challenge, right? You can make it your sport, right? Dealing with your frustrations and learning to overcome it. To accept and defeat frustration is to turn life into an enjoyable game of skill. All right? So that's I just want to leave off with one story. If you have anything else you want to add.
A lot of good stories today.
So Reb Moshe Feinstein, I mentioned it previously, the aforementioned great tzaddik. What an amazing sage. So this is one of my favorite stories about him. He was once, people would come every morning to the yeshiva where he would daven just to see him, to get blessings from him. I know many children, when they started putting on tefillin, the first day they'd come to Rabbi Moshe Feinstein to put on tefillin with it. It's a big thing to go to have a great sage put tefillin on for you for the first time. It's really very, very special. So you can imagine that when he walked out of the synagogue, out of the prayer hall to go home, and he would have a driver wait for him out in the front, there'd be a whole entourage of people who'd be escorting him out into his car. So, and one morning he goes out, like every normal morning, people come, people ask for blessing as he's walking out. He gets into the car, and someone, as they're finishing their conversation, closes the door. Okay. The driver drives Rabbi Feinstein. He lives a couple of blocks away, and as they turn the corner away from the yeshiva, Rabbi Feinstein asks the driver to stop for a moment. He says, "Please stop." So the driver stops, not understanding why, and Rabbi Moshe Feinstein opens the door and takes his hand out of the door, because the person who closed the door didn't realize, but he had closed the door on Rabbi Feinstein's hand. Right? So the driver says, that's very painful. Right? You could have told me back then. You could have told me back then that your hand was closed in the door. See, he said, do you know how embarrassed that person will feel if he knew that they closed the door on my hand? You imagine that greatness? Not willing to embarrass someone, willing to take. Now, I'll tell you on another perspective. That's the holiness and the greatness of a Torah scholar. Let me tell you what is the lack of holiness and greatness of someone who is the opposite of that. I saw a video of the Pope. Where a woman came to the Pope and she was so excited to see the Pope. And the Pope gave this angry face and pushed her away, and was like, and I was like, thinking of the story of Rabbi Feinstein. He was willing to travel another 2-3 minutes to turn away from the corner, just not to embarrass someone and not to get angry and to just accept the situation. And here, someone who's considered to be a holy person by others is displaying such a high level of anger and frustration with someone who may have said something, who may have acted in a certain way that was maybe disorderly or whatever. But that's not a way to act. That's not the way we act. We take frustration, we take things that are challenging, and we take it on as a task, as part of our growth process. So, to our dear friends online, thank you. To those of you on Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, thank you for watching this program. And God willing, next week, 10 o'clock on Wednesdays, we'll be here. Looking forward. And thank you. Any closing remarks?
No.
Just don't get angry. Take your time, right? All right. So to those of you on Facebook, Twitter, and YouTube, we're going to end this broadcast. And for those on Torch Zoom,